This is Grammar Lesson 1.3, Subject Pronouns in the Present Tense of the verb ser. For those of you following along in your notes, we're going to be filling in some different boxes today. Make sure that the boxes you're filling in your notes match what you see on the screen. We won't always go left to right or top to bottom as we fill in the boxes. Okay, the first thing we're going to talk about is subject pronouns. And a subject pronoun is basically a word that replaces the name or the title of a person or thing. So this kind of takes the place as the subject of a verb. We use these in both English and Spanish, although you might not have realized in English that they're called subject pronouns. You do use them. The singular subject pronouns that you're familiar with that we use in English are I, you, he, and she. In plural, the plural form of I is we. The plural form of you is the exact same word, you. The plural form of he and she is they. Okay? In Spanish, there are a couple of major differences from what you're used to in English. The first one being that there's not one form of you, not two forms of you, but there are four different words that mean you. And we'll talk a little bit more about those later, but go ahead and fill in your chart for now. There are also two different words that we use that mean they. One is referring to they if it's masculine, so it's a group of males or masculine objects. They, it's feminine, so if it's a group of females or feminine nouns. Okay, now that we have the English subject pronouns filled in, we're going to complete our chart by filling in the Spanish subject pronouns that we use. When we want to say I, we use the pronoun yo. If we want to say you, we use tú and usted. Make sure you write those in the same order that they are in on the chart. We'll discuss what they mean a little bit later. If we want to say he, we use él. If we want to say she, we use ella. For we, the word is nosotros. For you, and if it's plural, so you is referring to more than one person, we use vosotros and ustedes. For they, when it's referring to a group of males or masculine nouns, we use ellos. And if they is referring to a group of females or feminine nouns, we use ellas. Okay, when you're looking at the different forms of you, as you know, there are four of them, tú and vosotros, generally speaking, mean that the you that you're talking to is familiar. So this would be someone that you know on a first name basis. Maybe it's a friend, a family member, could be someone that you don't really know, but they're about the same age as you. So if that's one person, you would use tú. If it's a group of people, you would use vosotros. Usted and ustedes are used in more formal situations. So usted is a phrase you might use if you're talking to your boss at work, or if you were talking to the President of the United States, or someone that's a complete stranger. And then if you're talking to a group of authority figures or unfamiliar people, you would use ustedes. Okay, now something I want you to keep in mind is that ustedes can also be familiar, and this is actually more common than the vosotros form. The way I look at it is vosotros is kind of like saying y'all. So it's you, but it's a group of people. Y'all is a phrase that's used in some parts of the United States and where English is spoken, but it's not really used everywhere. The more common phrase we would use is more like you guys, if we're talking about you and it's a group of people. So where y'all is used in some instances, like in Texas or different places in the South, you guys would be the more common phrase that we would use. And likewise in Spanish, y'all or vosotros, this form is used in Spain, but it's not used in some of the other Spanish-speaking countries. So ustedes is the more common phrase for you if you're talking to a group of people. Just something to keep in mind. Okay, a couple more things about subject pronouns. The nosotros and vosotros forms are used if we or y'all is a group of males or it's a mixed group of males and females. However, if the group is only females or only feminine, these are people, so they would be females, then you would use nosotras for we and vosotras for you. So remember, that's only used if everyone in the group is female. A little bit on usted and ustedes, since these are the formal words that are used for you, they are considered formal titles, and so the you is at the beginning is always capitalized. They also can be abbreviated. Usted can be abbreviated to U de punto. Ustedes can be abbreviated to UDS punto. So this is similar to the way that we would abbreviate señor, señora, or señorita. And you'll notice those titles are also capitalized. Okay, now the next chart you're going to be filling in is the conjugations for the verb ser, which means to be. Just a side note and something to keep in mind for future reference, there are two different verbs that we use that express to be. Ser is usually used for permanent conditions, and the verb estar is used for changing conditions. You'll learn about estar in a later lesson. So let's focus first on the verb ser. The yo form of ser is yo soy, which means I am. The tú form is tú eres, which means you are. And again, this is you, one person, and it's friendly. We know each other on a first name basis. The usted form, we say usted es, which means you are, but this is if you're in a formal situation or talking to someone you don't know as well. If you want to say he is, it's él es. The ella form, ella es, which means she is. You'll notice the usted, él, and ella forms are all conjugated the exact same way, es. Okay, let's look at the plural side of our chart now. The nosotros form, we say nosotros somos, which means we are. Vosotros sois, which means y'all are. Ustedes son, which means you guys are. Ellos son, they are when it's a group of males, so the M here stands for masculine. Ellas son means they are when the group that you're referring to are all females or feminine nouns. Like with the singular side, you'll notice that the last three, ustedes, ellos, and ellas, are all conjugated the same. For all three of those forms, we use the word son. Next, we're going to talk about some of the ways that we use the verb ser. We use ser to identify people and things. For example, if I wanted to say, who is he? I would say, ¿Quién es él? And the answer could be, él es mi papá. He is my dad. If I wanted to ask, what is it? I'm talking about a thing. ¿Qué es? Es un mapa de los Estados Unidos. We've talked a little bit about how in English or in Spanish, all nouns are either masculine or feminine. There's not really a such thing as it. So when you're asking what is it, you don't really use a subject pronoun with this. It's left off completely. So you would just say, ¿Qué es? What is it? Another way that we use ser is to express possession. And when we do this, we use the preposition de with ser. De translates to of or from. So if I want to say, it is Isabel's book, this concept of the apostrophe S to show possession does not exist in Spanish. There are no apostrophes. So instead, we say, es el libro de Isabel, which is like saying, it is the book of Isabel. The formula you'll use is noun plus the word de plus the owner. Libro de Isabel. To say the word whose in Spanish, we use the phrase de quién. So if I want to say whose is it, I would say de quién es. So literally what we're saying here is kind of like of whom is it or from who is it. Es de Isabel. It is Isabel's. Another way that we use ser is to express origin, and again we're going to use the preposition de with ser. One example here, if I'm asking, where are you from? I say, ¿de dónde eres tú? You'll notice the order of the words when you ask a question is different in Spanish than in English, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that in another lesson. To answer, you would say, yo soy de wherever you're from. So in this example, yo soy de Argentina. If you're asking about someone else, ¿de dónde es Felipe? Where is Felipe from? Felipe es de México. Felipe is from Mexico. There are a few other uses of the verb ser that we're going to learn about later. You can go ahead and jot them down now if you want to, but they're going to be covered in lessons in the future. There's an acronym that I like to use to help me remember all the ways that we use ser, and that's the word doctor. So D stands for date, O for occupation, C for characteristics or permanent conditions, T for time, O for origin, and we did talk about origin in this lesson, so that's one that you should be familiar with now, and R for relation. So like I said, we'll learn more about these other uses of the verb ser in lessons to come, but for now, I want you to become familiar with using the subject pronouns and conjugating the verb ser and using it in the basic ways that we've discussed in this lesson.